I'll just stop going there. All right, let's do some tweets. So starting with Adam Page Master, says, if you are a Christian, there is nothing wrong with voting in laws that reflect Christianity. To dismiss this as Christian nationalism is boogeyman is asinine. Here's the thing about that, like, to a
laws
point,
that reflect Christianity. I'm sorry, not if laws have to affect all of us, including non-Christians, and you're using your Christianity to inform how you are voting on laws, then you are asking everyone else to conform to your Christianity.
Sorry, I gotta bust in here for a second. Bust, ha. That'll make sense for you in a sec. Dr. Tisha says, yes, you, her, and Suris are all busted. Because bust? Because you got tits?
Ha! Boobies!
Boobs! Boobs! All right. Anyways, you were saying?
Saying it's not... So it's not that anybody voting in a law on Christianity is Christian nationalism, though Christian nationalism is fucking stupid. It's that if you are putting in any law and you are using your religion of any kind, and that is informing your decision for a law you are voting on or writing, then I want you out of politics instantly, because not all of us have the same, if any, religion to ask us to deal with laws that we all have to deal with that are informed by your religion is basically asking us to follow the laws of your religion. And no, I'm sorry, just no.
Yeah, no, like, well, that's the thing. There is nothing wrong with voting in laws that reflect Christianity to an extent.
Yeah, I'm fine with voting in a law that says murder is wrong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Christianity doesn't always think that.
It depends on who we're murdering, but I mean, so does imperialism. So what's
yeah, okay, that's fair. But yeah, no, it's like that. You live in a pluralistic society, so like if you're voting for laws that are antithetical to a pluralistic society, then yeah, there is something wrong with that, and that is Christian nationalism. And Jassa says it's also unconstitutional. Yeah, in the States, no, thanks to RIFRA, nothing's unconstitutional anymore as long as it's sincerely held Christian religious belief. They don't say the Christian part, but effectively that's what it is.
Anytime you say sincerely held religious belief, 9 times out of 10, at least here in the West, it just means Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on where you are, it also reflects a particular brand of Christian.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the brand that's most well represented on the Supreme Court right now.
You mean fundamentalism?
Yeah.
My favorite.
Yeah. Exposing atheism. This person's fun. They say, atheists, when you say, I don't know, that's all cool. My follow-up question is, what's your hypothesis? Start there. Lots of things happening a long time ago, slowly adapting is not a hypothesis. It's a word salad.
Wait, that's not a word salad.
No, a word salad
That's not how word salads work.
No, it's not. Word
salads are sophistry.
Yeah, it's big, complicated words that mean nothing. Not just an oversimplified explanation that is actually really, really easy to understand, even if it's kind of wrong.
Are you telling me that Jordan Peterson speaks not in plain speech, but in a salad of words?
Yes. Yes,
but
does.
When he says, like, when you say, I don't know, that's cool. My follow-up question is, what is your hypothesis? I don't know is as far as I have to go on some things.
Well, I mean,
asking me, what's your best guess? I'm not an expert. My best guess doesn't fucking matter, buddy.
Okay, this is... Asa Rogers wants me to go on a tangent. Asa Rogers says, what CPU do you have and why use an air cooler? So I guess you can actually see that in my computer right now.
I can see the air. You're using the same cooler type that I am.
Yeah, it's the Be Quiet Dark Rock Pro something, whatever. I don't know. So yeah, it's a Ryzen 7 3900 XT.
Ryzen's for the last 5 years haven't had the proclivity to overheating they used to.
No,
They're
they
fine
haven't.
with air
They've
coolers.
been very good. Yeah, Ryzen 7 3800 XT. And I use the air cooler because when it's under extreme load for an extended period of time, with this cooler on it, it gets to like 60 degrees, which is fine. And that's in the summertime.
Yeah. Like air coolers are fine as long as the heat sink is clean. As long as you've got a clean heat sink, an air cooler is perfectly fine, and they last longer than most of your AIO coolers.
Yeah. Well, I actually got this case. Like this case, I do not need this massive case for this little computer. But I want to set up a custom water cooling loop in here. So like I've got the vertical mounted GPU bracket thing. So I want to like put a GPU block on there, get a CPU block on there.
Are your GPU fans not running?
No. Because no, they only run when they need to.
Okay, fair enough.
Let's see. I don't have hardware info running right now.
I'm used to ones that always run, so
just run. Yeah, no, it's so I want to set up a custom water cooling block, but I absolutely do not need it. My temperatures are excellent. Like right now the GPU is at 42.9 degrees, the CPU is at 52.8.
That's reasonable.
Yeah. And normally I'd leave hardware info running in the background, but I guess I didn't have it running, so I would be able to tell you what the maximum was. But like, yeah, I've never seen it. I've never seen either of them go above 80 degrees on this system.
What GPU are you running right now?
It's a 3070.
Okay, I got a 3080. Neat.
I have a 3080. No, I was going to say a TI, but it's not the TI. I have a 3080 in my VR rig in the living room. And then when I got this one, it was like I was using the 3080 for work, but it's like it's overkill for what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh, so I'll get a 3070 now that the prices are coming down. Stick it in there, and the VR rig gets the 3080.
I have a 3080 Ti, which will be more useful as I get a different 3D rig. My 2D rig will never use all the resources of that thing.
Mike Schaefer is asking, what's that in freedom units? I hate to break it to you, but even Americans measure computer temperatures in Celsius.
Yeah, like
because it's like the same reason people who like Fahrenheit better will say that like, oh well, Fahrenheit for the temperature outside is just what percentage hot are you? 100% is really hot, 0% is really cold, about 75% is comfortable or whatever. It's like that's kind of the same scale with a computer
gets to 90, like, that's the scary number.
Well, 9 it depends. Like 12th gen Intel, 90 is pretty normal, but like 90 to 100 is like you don't want it that hot, but it'll be okay. Over 100 is danger territory. 80 is pretty toasty. Like while you're gaming, it should be probably in the like high 60s to 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally. And of course there are all sorts of different variations on that. Anyway, back to the tweets. This is exposing atheism again. Says, I don't like the rule, therefore God doesn't exist. So
How to misunderstand the moral argument.
I think that's just him doing that whole like atheists only want to sin thing.
Yeah. But both the evidential and the, what was the other one? There's evidential and it's not philosophical. There's two moral arguments. Neither moral argument works that fucking way. I don't remember the specific name. The specific name doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, I don't remember that either. Wayne Gaffney says Kelvin is your dead. So yeah, 100 degrees Kelvin, you froze to death. And okay, before all you pedants start getting on me in the comments, I know it's not degrees Kelvin. It's just Kelvin, 100 Kelvin. Whatever.
You have to be special.
So yeah, but like this is just the like the old trope of like, oh, atheists are only atheists, like they're denying God and their unrighteousness, except this is a Muslim. So I'm not sure, like I know Muslims believe Jesus was a prophet, but I'm not sure how they feel about Paul's writings, because was Romans by Paul?
Romans by Paul. It was his letters to the
It's
Romans.
Acts. Okay, I always get Romans and Acts mixed up because like I'm like one was written by the guy who did Luke. I'm like that's Acts. So yeah, no, I'm not sure what Muslims feel about Paul's writings, but like that's like this is straight out of Paul, Romans 1:20.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the whole like you have it written on your heart type of shit.
No, you're denying God and your unrighteousness.
So I'm pretty sure that it's been a while. It's been 5 years since I read the Quran because it's a boring book and I didn't enjoy it. I haven't gone back through it because it's thoroughly uninteresting.
Do a Control F for "Oh Jews." You'll get to all the interesting part.
But I'm fairly certain that the same types of like, hey, you know that God exists, you feel it in your heart. The same type of arguments are made in the surahs.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. All right, next we get a meme that I actually did some research on this one because I wanted to have some shit to back up what I'm saying. So the government is spoon feeding people the idea that the Civil War was about slavery. So I've got some quotes that I want to read to you. These
States rats.
I'll get to that after. I'm addressing that as well. But so this is let's see. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 5 quotes from the various states' reasons that they like the document that they drafted, laying out the reasons that they were seceding. So from South Carolina says an increasing hostility on the part of the non-slave holding states to the institution of slavery.
Oh boy,
that sounds like it's about slavery. Georgia. This is the second sentence of Georgia's reasons for seceding was, for the last 10 years, we have had numerous and serious causes of complaint against our non-slaveholding Confederate states with reference to the subject of African slavery. They have endeavored to weaken our security, to disturb our domestic peace and tranquility, and persistently refuse to comply with the express constitutional obligations to us in reference to that property being the human beings that they owned, and their obligations being when those human beings escape and say, I don't want to be property anymore, the northern states are supposed to send them back down. So that ties into the states' rights thing, so pin in that.
Boy, howdy.
Mississippi says, our position is thoroughly identified with the institution of slavery, the greatest material interest of the world. That sounds like it's about slavery. Texas said, and Texas has preferred pronouns of she, her, I guess, because they referred to Texas as she throughout their whole thing. So they say...
That explains why Texas is so fucked.
Yeah. So, yeah, just tell that to the people waving the Confederate flags around. It's like, you know, Texas has pronouns in their little...
Texas has pronouns in bio.
Texas has pronouns in bio, essentially. So she, Texas, was received as a Commonwealth holding, maintaining and protecting the institution known as Negro slavery, the servitude of the African to the white race within her limits. Sounds like that's about slavery. Virginia says the federal government, having perverted said powers listed earlier, not only to the injury of the people of Virginia, but to the oppression of the southern slaveholding states. Virginia was not quite as explicit as the other ones, but it's clearly about slavery as well there. Then if you read the Constitution, the Confederate States of America Constitution, Article 4, Section 2 says, the citizens of each state shall be entitled to all the privileges and immunities of citizens in several states, and shall have the right of transit and sojourn in any state of this Confederacy with their slaves and other property, and the right of property in said slaves shall not be thereby impaired. So right in their Constitution, they're enshrining slavery. There was another section that I didn't copy the quote from, but it basically said, like, here are the laws regarding slavery. You're not allowed to restrict it any further than that. Never will any laws be made restricting slavery. It explicitly said that.
Seems pretty fucking important to the southern states.
Yeah. And then when you talk about states' rights, like the common response to that is like, well, states' rights to do what? And own slaves, obviously. But they're very much anti-states' rights because they're not respecting the northern states' rights to not return the slaves when they escape. They want to get the federal government to enforce that, to force the states to do something that they don't want to do against states' rights.
So I have a fun and unique perspective on this as somebody who lives in Georgia. Actual conversations I've had with people here, people who are conservative, mind you, because when you have friends in a place where everybody's conservative, guess what your friends are going to be? Going to be conservative.
Yeah.
You don't have much of a choice. So let me go ahead and say the exact words that a friend of mine tried to use when we talked about slavery. His exact words were, well, you know, it never really was about slavery. They were trying to take our resources.
What resources?
Which resources?
What resources were they trying to take?
which ones? Because there's only one.
I wish I'd have copied down the rest of. I think it was Virginia's the one that was that called slavery. No, it wasn't Virginia. Might have been Georgia. The one that called slavery like the best economic institution.
Boy, yeah, it was.
Like
they're like
they went on about that and like how important slavery is for resources for the states.
Yep, like it's. I know that there's the meme on Twitter where people are like, "Hey, the southern states, they called it the War of Northern Aggression." I'm like, no. People still believe that here. You talk about that shit in public here, there are people who will go to bat saying, no, it was the War of Northern Aggression. They were trying to take our resources. States' rights obviously comes up a handful of times, but it is always framed as if we were on the defense here. The North came in to subjugate us, and living, breathing adults still think this shit here.
Yeah.
And very, 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 very obvious, because they don't tend to say this around Black people here. That's a thing that I noticed as well, awkwardly.
All right. Next up, we've got Nick Adams, who says, with Biden's lackluster response to Hurricane Ian, the people are being reminded how much they miss President Trump. There is no doubt that President Trump was the greatest natural disaster president in U.S. history, and I am positive Governor Ron DeSantis misses having his help. I love the way he phrased that. That is the way to word it. I love the way he phrased that. That's the whole reason I picked this. Is like, yes, President Trump was the greatest natural disaster.
So you made a comment the last time we covered Nick Adams that it feels so much like he's a parody account.
Yes.
It's
stuff like this. It's like, how could you not have seen that?
Moreover, okay, when it says Biden's lackluster response to Hurricane Ian, wasn't it DeSantis who...
DeSantis turned down any help from any non-red state.
Yeah. So I'm just like, I'm pretty sure it's not Biden who's got a lackluster response. It's DeSantis screwing over his constituents. Not just that. Fun fact. Did you know that there's actually a... I had the article pulled up for it because Katini gave it to me earlier. But there was a juvenile detention center in Florida that was not evacuated with everyone else. And as the death tolls are being calculated for various cities in Florida from Hurricane Ian, the sheriff whose decision it was to not evacuate the juvenile detention center and let them just suffer through the hurricane, apparently DeSantis has praised him in the wake of that. And I'm like,
that's gross.
You know, for somebody who's so thoroughly against abortion, you seem to be perfectly okay with the idea of killing kids.
Well, and you know, a lot of the kids that go to juvie, like there are a lot of kids in juvie that are there because there were no foster families available. It's not that they did something wrong. It's that is the only place they can be housed.
Okay, Katini corrected. The juvie one is rumored, but the one that was confirmed was just a regular jail. Oh. Same problem, same issue, but
it's still a massive human rights violation.
Yeah, didn't make it better.
Oh, apparently Shannon is in the group chat that I'm ignoring right now, trying to convince me to come visit Nova Scotia.
Help me convince Rice to come visit. Hold on, you pulled it away. 1 second. I need to see how much I need to convince you. Help me convince Vice to come visit Nova Scotia. He's ignoring me in the group's chat because apparently he's hosting a show. You know, Shannon, I'm going to be perfectly real with you. You're correct. Vice should visit Nova Scotia. And he's a terrible person, and we should shame him for being such. Sorry, was that out loud? That was supposed... Oh God, I'm getting flashbacks to Bionic Dance. She used to do that all the time with her phone.
Okay. Next, Nick Adams. I just can't. I just picked that one because of the Trump.
The rhetoric.
Oh yeah, no. Okay, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that. Like, you remember when Trump went to Puerto Rico after the hurricane hit them and he lobbed paper towels into the audience?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Biden's response was better than that.
Potentially.
Anyway, Nick Adams says the left cancels everything they disagree with. It's pathetic. It's like, pretty sure that it was the right that invented cancel culture. Like Satanic Panic, that was all about trying to cancel anything that had any hint of Satanism to it, and no matter how like loosely tied together it was.
So I'm of two minds on this one, awkwardly. Because you're right, but there is, because we've experienced this with people I'm not going to name, but there are a handful of people on the left that do weaponize. It's not really it is canceling, but purity testing.
To be fair, sometimes it is okay to cancel someone. Like we mentioned earlier, how like Richard Spencer and Milo Yiannopoulos were canceled.
Thoroughly canceled and
thoroughly canceled to the point canceled. That fits. They're thoroughly canceled to the point where I forgot that they even existed until you brought them up. And that is as it should be for those people.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. My thing is that it happens more often on the right, canceling anything that they disagree with. But a thing that I've had issue with, like, people I care about, is watching them purity test each other and try to go after each other in something that you could call canceling as well. And I'm just like, we get a lot more done together. Could y'all stop? Could y'all stop fracturing? That would be cool. But that tends to be more of like internal purity testing, as opposed to labeling everything as wrong, labeling everything as bad, calling every LGBT person a groomer. If I were to go for widespread canceling stuff, that's like the right pissing and moaning.
Yeah. All right. Timothy Keller says the basic purpose of prayer. I can't talk.
Thanks,
The basic purpose of prayer is not to bend God's will to mine, but to mold my will into his. Aside from the sexual nature of that comment, basically what that says is prayer is useless. God's going to do what he's going to do anyway. So just
then prayer is worthless.
Yeah. Well, no, like, it's to teach yourself to think more like God or something or whatever. It's like,
well, he didn't answer your calls, so I mean, what are you trying to do?
I don't know. I just thought this one was kind of amusing to me. And that's the end of it. And I've got a little girl outside that's waiting for me to come and give her goodnight cuddles.
Fair enough.
That normally happened at like 20 minutes ago. She'd normally be going back to bed by now.
We've never gone over on time before.
No, we never. We're always done right on time. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. It's been a blast. Nice boobs?
Tits.